Your grand rising, everybody. How you doing? This is your coach Renz, and welcome to Deconstructing Christianity, our normal Tuesday night show. We'll give about 5 minutes for people to get on. I see that we have some people already in the waiting room, so we are going to get started right around the 5-minute mark to let people get a chance to get on. For those who are finding the channel for the first time, what we do here is we are a Christian deconstructing channel. We are not Christian. We do not believe in the Bible, but we deconstruct it from the Bible, and therefore find ourselves going through research and study and conversations in order for us to continue to grow in that realm of deconstructing. If you have a problem with cigars, wrong channel to be on. So Crypto 8, Wrath, Tim, Grand Ride. We got some new leaves in. My wife started rolling some new cigars. This Brazilian wrapper. No, this is the Nicaraguan wrapper. So we got Nicaraguan and Brazilian wrappers that she's rolling with right now. Teresa, Junie, welcome. Debbie, how you doing, young lady? So tonight's conversation is, for me, a oldie but goodie, as we're going to talk about the dark politics surrounding the Council of Nicaea. And that's going to be the topic of conversation for as long as we can maintain the topic, because as we know, many times, y'all like to change the topic or subject of the situation. Now, this one is going to be very interesting, simply because there are so many misconceptions concerning the Council of Nicaea, how it came about, what they talked about, what happened, what they did, and its impact afterwards. So we're going to talk about some of those things. Some of y'all where we normally agree may find disagreement. All right? Because there are many urban legends that have been attached to the Council of Nicaea. And we're going to talk about some of those. There's one big urban legend that I used to believe. But then upon further research, we had to get away from it. Actually, I do follow him to a certain extent. Yeah, I'll mess that. I like a lot of his videos, but he goes off the deep end a little bit sometimes as well. He goes into realms where even I have to be like, okay, dude, seriously. And basically, I like when Morgo is trying to stick with Hyperianism, but sometimes his validations that Jesus and his teachings and that sort of thing, I'm like, come on, man. All right. This your first time? Oh, this your first time being on time. I was gonna say, you've been here before. It's the first time being on time. You got the visitors on time. Look at y'all being on time. Hell, I was almost late myself. Almost late. I was downstairs hanging out with my bride. I was almost late. That's why I preset everything up early. But still got about 30 seconds before we get started. I'm tripping on all y'all who are saying that y'all are on time for the first time. This is crazy. So, if you are a member on YouTube, a subscription holder on Facebook, I greatly appreciate it. If you support the channel through financial donations, I appreciate it. If you go into the description on my description pages or in some of the videos and you shop at the store and get your Lying as Liar shirts or your Free Yourself shirts, I just want to let you know that I appreciate it. All right. I don't want that to go without being said, but I appreciate the support. If you give stars and things of that nature, I appreciate all the support that you guys have given. I know a lot of uh, YouTubers and well, a lot of Facebook social media, a lot of Facebook content creators have been suffering as they have reduced their payouts by like I figured it out, it was 50%. So I really do appreciate you guys. Now let's get ready to go. Isaac. Isaac, Angelina wrote this. She's working and learning how to become a cigar roller. So this is a Nicaraguan wrapper with a Nicaraguan HVA binder. No, it's not HVA, but no, it is an HVA. Nicaraguan HVA, Dominican and HVA binder, Nicaraguan filler. So to get started on tonight's show, we are going to try to have a very simple discussion concerning the Council of Nicaea and the dark politics surrounding it. So in order for that to happen, I need you guys to give me about, I'm gonna lie and say 10 minutes of your time to express this council and as much information as I know about it. And I will try to put it in a timeline by which that everything follows suit so that we have a clear understanding of it. And then we will continue to have discussions about it, right? No, deconstructing is not like easy money. If I wanted easy money, I would preach Christianity. There are other subject matters that would do better than what I'm talking about. So let's get started. The Council of Nicaea. Most people like to jump right into the Council of Nicaea in 325 CE, which is where most Christians will say that Christianity really became the religion at 325 of this Council of Nicaea. But in order to understand this story, you actually have to go a lot further back to see how it came into being. So long time ago, back after, and we're not going to go as far back as the Piso family or the Vespasian or the Flavians, but if you can understand and put your mind in a world where Christianity had became this religion that was originally created by Vespasian and his son Titus, and for other members of the Flavian dynasty, also known as the Piso family, in conjunction with people like Josephus and Philo of Alexander, to create a docile version of Judaism. And the reason why a docile version of Judaism had to be created, because this is how Vespasian became emperor. You see, the Jewish people had been looking for a Messiah that would overthrow the government. They had a similar situation with the Maccabees and the in when they conquered the Greeks and gained their freedom for a little bit. And that dynasty only lasted for 100 plus years. So here they find themselves back under Roman control. And under that Roman control, they were looking for this Messiah. So throughout Egypt and in Rome and throughout the Mediterranean, Jews were revolting. And in these revolts, they were looking for this Messiah. So it is my contention, and that of some scholars, it is still debatable, that the Flavian family started Christianity to calm down Judaism, to replace Judaism, having them to believe that their Messiah had already come. But to no avail, this did not work. And as the Roman centuries go by in 1st century and 2nd century and 3rd century, now we have two competing forces. You have the forces of the Jewish religion, and you have the forces of the Messianic Jewish religion, and then you have those who are believing in Jesus. And the problem is that the belief in Jesus was as far flung as it is today in the number of denominations. So since there were denominations in Egypt and denominations in Jerusalem and in Turkey or Corinth and in Ephesus and all throughout the Roman Empire, you had so many variations of Christianity that have been taking place. There was no such thing as this golden era of Christianity. So with all these versions of Christianity going around, it was no wonder that some Roman emperors like Domitian used them to violate those people and to crush them and to persecute them. And so it is not until you get into the 2nd and 3rd century that you actually seen persecution of Christians. Originally in the 1st century, it was still the persecution of Jews. Christians weren't looked upon that much, but by the time we get into the middle half of the 2nd century and into the 3rd century, you started seeing the persecution of Christians. And through this persecution, the movement still was as a fleshly movement, but it was still growing because you had people like Irenaeus and Justin Martyr. You had people like Marcion, who were great orators and men of means, and they began to grow their people and grow their ministry based on these teachings from Paul and whatnot. And so Christianity started making its inroads. And it was viable. It was an illegal cult within the Roman Empire. But then as the empire fractured, you had Constantine on one side, on the eastern side. You had Maxentius on the right side, on the western side. Maxentius actually had more Christians in his army than Constantine. Constantine, the first indication that we know that Constantine had people in his army who were Christian was up at Hadrian's Wall. And you can go there now and you can still see upon Hadrian's Wall symbols of crosses, and you can still find some in where they had encampments. There were encampments for Mithra and encampments for, well, temples for Mithra, temples for Apollo, and temples for Jesus. And these were small, rudimentary types of temples. So Constantine was aware that he had Orthodox, Hellenized Roman Christians in his army, and we recognize that Maxentius had many. Now, what was Constantine's goal? Constantine's goal was to bring the empire together, to defeat Maxentius and bring the empire together. Problem. And by the time we get towards the war's end, there's the final battle at the Moldavian Bridge between Maxentius and Constantine. Constantine is victorious at this battle. And at the end of that battle, he is now the emperor of Rome that has been reunified. But he has a problem. Now he is the commander over the army of Maxentius' army, which is a lot of Christians in it. He also is over his own army that has Christians. So he has to satisfy this issue. And he also is recognizing that Christians are fighting each other all over the Roman Empire. Christians are fighting in Egypt. The Gnostics are fighting against the Orthodox. You got, Marcions fighting against Orthodox. You got Orthodox fighting against those who were in Jerusalem. You got this fighting that's going over. And it wasn't just a regular fight. It was a physical fights oftentimes, that they would get into these completely physical fights and blood would be spilled. And it would seem that it was causing so much problems in the Roman Empire that Constantine in 318 decided to call a meeting in Milan. And in that meeting in Milan, a couple of things of interest happened. I'm running out of fire. Well, the first thing that was of interest that happens in Milan is that Constantine had Eusebius of Caesarea was his scribe. Eusebius, in his recounting of what happened at the battle of the Moldavian Bridge, never mentioned anything about seeing Jesus in the sky. Seeing a cross in the sky. He never mentioned about the soldiers painting crosses on their shield. He never mentioned about how Constantine was visited by Jesus in his tent. These things weren't mentioned in his first writings of the accounts of what happened at the Moldavian Bridge. But then, when Constantine is speaking to Christian bishops, he tells these bishops that he saw the cross in the sky, and so did his troops. They painted crosses on their shields, and by this sign you'll conquer. And Jesus visited him in his, he told him that Sol Invictus visited him in his tent, and by this sign you will conquer. And he related that the Sol Invictus is just like their Jesus, that we have similarity. And that's a common thought process and practice by the Romans as they took over the Hellenistic thought process. No, David, I'm giving you the backstory so that we can get to the Council of Nicaea. I understand. I'm just giving you the backstory because you can't just jump into it. You got to understand how we get to the Council of Nicaea. We're almost there. So the Edict of Milan is then signed, and the Christian bishops are courted to take control over Christianity. And by now the Romans making it legal, Constantine was of the mindset that the Christians who were in Milan would control Christianity, and that with it being legalized, that the Christians would stop fighting one another. They wouldn't have to go hide anymore. They wouldn't have to go in house to house. They can truly grow. And one of the other aspects of it is that Constantine's mother was becoming Christian at this time frame. So once Constantine thinks that the Edict of Milan in 318 CE was going to settle down all the fighting, it didn't work. It didn't work. So what we have is in 325, Constantine decides we have to gain control over this Christianity. I mean, the people are just out here fighting one another. They're all supposed to believe in the same religion. And Constantine definitely was still believing in Apollo and Mithra, because those were the religions of the upper crust, the Senate, the military generals, and so on and so forth. So he was still worshiping him. Now, so he calls the Council of Nicaea together. Now, although there's absolutely no proof of it, it is said that 1,800 bishops around the Roman Empire were invited to this council, but only 318 showed up because the people, Constantine had made it clear that the people that he was going to support were the ones who was in his army. These would be the Hellenized Romans, Christians who are known as the Orthodoxy. Those were going to be the one that he was going to support. So all the other types of Christianity, other denominations, didn't bother to show up. There was no need to show up. Right? So they just didn't show up. Except for except for Arius. So both Athanasius and Arius are coming out of Alexandria, Egypt. Arius is representing the Gnostic viewpoint. Athanasius is representing the Coptic Christians who were more like the orthodoxy of Christianity. So Nicaea is the town by which the council was being held. It's the town. But yes, we had a disconnect of Christianity from the very beginning. It was never this unified thing. What's your question, Lucian? When you do that, just put your question in there. You know, he's a member, so you know I got to recognize this question. So Constantine is having this meeting. Um, Now his mother was very involved in this meeting. His mother was very interested in this meeting because his mother had been converted over to Christianity by this time frame. And by this time frame, Constantine had given his mother all kinds of money to go to Jerusalem and start building churches on top of places like the Pool of Bethesda. She builds a church. The birthplace, so-called birthplace of Jesus in Bethlehem, she builds a church. She goes around and just declares these are places where things of the Bible happen and churches are built on top of it. So Christianity gets this huge boost by his mother. But so they have this thing at Council of Nicaea. Now there are some foolishness that some people believe, and at one point in my life I thought it was true until I actually went and I studied the Council of Nicaea and saw saw authentic documentation of that era. And that is the fact that some people believe that the Council of Nicaea is where Christianity was formed, and they believe that the Bible was canonized at the Council of Nicaea. And some go to the length, and that's what I used to believe, and some goes to the length of thinking that all the manuscripts were placed on a table, and when they returned the next day, whatever manuscripts didn't fall off the table were going to become the canon. That's all of that. None of that happened. Christianity wasn't created at the Council of Nicaea. The canonization of the Bible didn't happen at the Council of Nicaea. They did not put all the books on the table and whatever was left in the morning. None of those things happened. There was only two things that the Council of Nicaea was called to do. Well, three. Number one, organize Christianity. All the fighting that everybody had been doing, all the Christian infighting. So all that stuff had to be done. That's the first thing. The second thing was that most of the fighting that was going on in Christianity was over two subject matters. Subject matter number one and subject matter most important. Who is Jesus? What is Jesus? Is Jesus homoousios, which is that Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit are all one and the same? Or was Jesus a created being by God who was sent to do what he did, but not to be worshiped? You see, Arius came to argue that point. Athanasius came to argue against him, and so did the other 317 bishops who had shown up. They had came to argue against Arius's point that Jesus was not the Son of God and is God. So the Trinity was issue number one. The other issue, although minor, but still a big deal for them because it was a big deal for the Roman government and for Roman citizens of how they would treat their Christians, was the fact of when is Easter going to be celebrated. You see, in most places, like in Egypt and in the Levant, Easter at that time frame was being celebrated at a different time. It was sometimes it was in April, sometimes in March, sometimes in May. It's just being celebrated all over the place. And the celebration of his birth, they were celebrating in January. They were celebrating like January 9th, January 6th or 9th, one of those days. And then other Christians were celebrating in September. So these celebrations, this argument between when is Jesus' birthday and when was his crucifixion was another big argument that was causing a lot of fighting amongst Christians. So they had to satisfy that. I'm going to try to answer some questions as we go. I never heard, I don't think that I did hear that Colydrian sect considered the Trinity to be, I've never heard of that sect. I don't know that sect. So those were the big issues. And although Arius was arguing the point, and it got so heated as a demonstration of how things were going out on the street. It got so heated in their arguments that it is that Jerome is recorded by the same Caesarea, Eusebius of Caesarea, who have recorded the battle of the Moldavian Bridge, records that Jerome got up and slapped the hell out of Arius because he would not relent in his teachings of the Gnostic form of Gnosticism, that Jesus was simply a created being. And one of the reasons why Arius was teaching this is because when you look at how John 1 is written in Koine Greek in the Septuagint, it does not say, it says it differently. It says, in the beginning, the Word was with God, and that God, well, the Word was with the God, and that God was towards the God. So it creates a separation, because when you read John 1 in Greek, it has ton theos when it speaks of God. When it speaks of the Word, the legos, it just says theos, which is implied a God in Koine Greek. So Arius was arguing that point, and Jerome gets up and walks across the room and slaps the shit out of him. So after he slaps him, Jerome, of course, is now put in jail. He's in prison, but Jerome claims that Jesus came to him in his cell, and he came out and he was forgiven, and he apologized to Arius, and that is why they have a Saint Jerome. So anytime you see a Catholic church or anything that's called Saint Jerome, that is the Jerome by which they are speaking of. So the question then became, who in the hell was Jesus? And although the vote came out to say the Trinity is correct, then that settled the argument. And Arius records himself saying that it was with a heavy hand that he signs this creed, the Nicene Creed, that just basically the Trinity, establishing the Trinity. So before then, you did not have the same Trinity that you Christians have today. Okay, so here's my guy's question. I've been a member of your channel for a while now, but if you don't mind me asking, are you on Twitter or X? No, I'm not on Twitter or X. I've actually never been on Twitter. No. And you're absolutely right. It's interesting how they have some divine way to excuse their fuckery, because there's no witnesses to him being visited by Jesus in that cell or anything of that sort. It's just something that he claimed. They accepted it. He was forgiven. And you have to recognize these bishops were not like some poor pastor down the street. These were people who were known and they had power, and so they would be able to come in and flaunt their influence over other people. And by this time frame, you have people at all levels who are now Christian, especially when you got Constantine's mother, the Queen Mother here is a Christian as well. So you got a lot of power involved in Christianity already by this point. So it wasn't strange that they would let Jerome come back with this bullshit and saying that he saw Jesus. It has been well accepted because of the power plays that are going on here. Any other time frame, you think somebody get up and slap somebody and comes back, they wouldn't be able to get away with that. But if you got money, then that's money and power changes everything. But those were some of the politics that was going on. So other than the Nicene Creed, the only thing that happened afterwards, since Athanasius was a big time bishop in Alexandria, Egypt, which was a huge Christian community in Alexandria, and they were fighting against the Gnostic teachings because there was a huge Gnostics. There was more Gnostics in Egypt than there were Orthodox Christians. And throughout the Levantian area, there were more Gnostics. But during this time frame, so Athanasius was given the duty of sending out a letter every year to let all the Christians know when to celebrate Easter. That when you look at the calendar, the Sunday after Passover is going to be when you celebrate Easter. And so he established Easter to be celebrated after the Passover, which it should be according to the biblical story. And so they began to control the people as a unit by saying this is Passover day and this is going to be Jesus' birthday. I forgot exactly who the person was, but there was a earlier Christian writer back in their day who had wrote that that Mary got impregnated on March 25th, and that the crucifixion happened on March 25th. So and you have to understand, they like things to be nice and neat like that. And so when you count 9 months after March 25th, you get December 25th. So there was a 2nd century Christian bishop who wrote that and was teaching that and believing that. And so since the crucifixion had to happen at the same time of, well, since basically they used the time frame of the crucifixion that they thought the crucifixion was on, and said that's when Mary got pregnant, and then did 9 months after that. And so you get December 25th. I know people want to harp on the winter solstice, and that could play a part of why he picked March 25th of that particular year so that it matches up with the winter solstice. I understand. But it wasn't the Council of Nicaea that tried to make that holiday match up with Saturnalia. This was somebody who was writing long before then. But it was the Council of Nicaea that established it. St. Nicholas, I thought it was St. Jerome who punched Arius. Are you sure? Let me check, because I can be wrong. Who slapped Arius at the Council of Nicaea? I was wrong. It is not St. Jerome. It is St. Nicholas. It was Santa Claus. Thank you. Let me give you some props. Let me give you your props. I was corrected. Now you got me wondering who the hell is St. Jerome. I know there is a St. Jerome, but I don't know why he's important though. Now, so St. Nicholas. So Santa Claus be out here slapping people. My head is so crooked. I gotta get your phone. Thank you for your correction. Thank you for your correction. So when we lost my trail. So at this time frame, we got Constantine's mother. She's out there. She's building Christian churches all over Israel, and she's establishing Christianity more and more people are joining it because she's a part of it, and other powerful people are a part of Christianity. And so as people continue, it continues to grow now. Now it's starting to come into structure. It's starting to have voice. It's starting to have support by the Roman government. And Athanasius now is every year, not only is he putting a letter out to say this is when Easter will be celebrated, but he's also going about the process of sending out what he believes the canon of the Bible should be. And this canon goes out he does it for about 20 plus 25, 29 years that he's sending this canon out until there's another council in around 370, somewhere around that time frame, that they finally canonized the Bible based on what Athanasius had been putting out. This is when some of your other books that people have been reading starts to get kicked to the curb. So when people say they took this book, they took Enoch out of the Bible, they took the Gnostic, the writings at Nag Hammadi out of the Bible. They never took them out. They were never a part of it, because Athanasius never sent those out to be part of it. They just never made the cut because they pretty much just followed what Athanasius had been putting out for like 27 years. There were some books that they deliberated over, like the book of Revelations. The church in Laodicea had a big problem with the book of of Revelation because of how it made the church seem and how it made them look. But the Bible then gets canonized. Now, because the Bible is canonized and you start to have a breakup of the Roman Empire again, you got the Byzantine Empire growing over here, and you got the breakup of the primary Roman Empire. Around 100 years later, almost 100 years later, well, not 100 years later, some decades later, you get Emperor Theodosius. And Emperor Theodosius is the one who's going to make Christianity the government, the religion throughout the Roman Empire. So it all started because Vespasian thought I can make a new version of Judaism. And then it didn't work. And so he started another problem for the Romans, and their way of solving it was to have this council. This council was filled with a bunch of politics, and this council established the office of the Pope. So before that, you had other people claiming something similar to a papacy, but it wasn't until the Council of Nicaea that you get the beginnings of the formation of the Pope. Were they not part of the Ethiopian Bible? The Ethiopian Bible is a little bit different. The Ethiopian Bible gets established in 330 when you have a bishop from Alexandria named Frumentius, who goes down. He's shipwrecked in Ethiopia, becomes a slave, gets free to go back up to Egypt, comes back down after getting permission from the church in the Coptic Church, and he converts King Izana into Christianity in 330, and they formulate their own Bible. They take pretty much all of the books, which is why they have 88 books. But the Ethiopians had absolutely nothing to do with the Council of Nicaea. And nor did the council have any jurisdiction over the Ethiopians. And so it's a totally separate thing. So what we can see is that if it had not been for Constantine, oh, and by the way, let me throw in there, when Constantine died fully still worshiping Mithra and Apollo and Sol Invictus. If you ever are in Italy, in Rome, if you go to Constantine's Ark, one of the things you will see missing is that on the soldiers, there's no crosses on their shield. There's no crosses on the Constantine's Ark at all. Now, if he had seen this vision of Jesus, then just like Titus had the menorah and all these other things that he had taken from the Jewish temple and all the slaves, and as a tribute to his victory in 70 AD, Constantine would have had Jesus on there. He would have had crosses on the shield. There would have been something commemorating it, but there wasn't. The only gods that are on his ark is Mithra and Apollo. And the way his ark used to be, Apollo was below, and he was riding a chariot with some horses, and he would, as the sun set, him on his chariot appears to rise above the sun. So he saw himself as rising above Apollo and becoming Sol Invictus. If you go to other places in Italy where there are statues of Constantine, he's portrayed as either Mithra or Apollo. It wasn't until after he died that his mother had him baptized. And that is why the Roman Catholic, or the Catholic Church, declares Constantine was the first Christian emperor when he wasn't. Theodosius was the first Christian emperor. And Theodosius comes a little bit later. Emperor Theodosius. Right. Emperor Theodosius doesn't come until between 379 and 395. And I think it was around 381 is when he made Christianity the Roman, the religion of Rome. Or is that Theodosius II? because that's Theodosius the first. It actually might have been Theodosius the second, around 417. It's one of them damn Theodosiuses. Nope, it was the first one. Around 381 that he declares Christianity the religion of Rome. Yeah. And yeah, you generally have to be alive to receive a baptism. But you can understand the politics behind it. The emperor dies, his mother wants him to be baptized. They baptize the corpse, declare that he is now Christian and his soul is going to God. His soul believes in Jesus. This would become a very powerful tool in the Roman theater of people. When the word gets out that he died a Christian, or in death he became a Christian, then it tells everybody else it's not too late. You can still become a Christian. So because of Rome, that the heart of the Catholic religion is in Italy. I mean, it comes from a different era. Exactly that. If Constantine had sided with the Coptic, then which the Coptic were very similar to the Romans, and they wind up just being absorbed into them for the most part, then it would have been in Alexandria, Egypt. If he was with the Gnostics, it might have been in Jerusalem or still Alexandria, Egypt. But yes, it is because the Roman government supported the Orthodoxy, and most of them were Hellenized Roman Christians. It ended up in Rome, even though the council actually happened in Nicaea. And right, it's what they wanted other people to perceive. You know, it's just like, you ever go to a funeral and the person was a known drug dealer or something like that, but the pamphlet got them with angel wings and they talking about they in heaven and they in a better place and all that stuff. It's a perception of death. There's a big perception of death. Um, Now, that was the thing that people were saying, that he was on his deathbed. But in truth, it was done after he died. And that's how they wanted people to believe it, that it was done on his deathbed. But if you think, who's going to question it at that time frame? You go question it? You're not going to question it. In their type of government, you would be murdered. You would be killed. So you weren't, no one was going to question. And then you got his mother, who was still a very powerful person at this time frame. They're not going to question that at all. Yes, they did not want the Book of Revelation to be part of the Bible. Uh, I think they went back and forth with the Book of Revelations. I think until the Council of Laodicea in 10 something. I mean, it was all the way till 10 something before they finally just said okay. But they wanted to take that book out a lot for a very long time. Some scholars say that they thought that it was too scary of a book for them to have. It was too apocalyptic. And Dorian, here's the thing. I'm not telling you any information that you guys can't go find for yourself, especially in today's world. In today's world, back when I went, when I first discovered this, went deep into the Council of Nicaea. This was in 1992 is when I first started getting deep into the Council of Nicaea. And then in 93, I got stationed in Germany. So I was able to take trips down to Italy, go to the Vatican, meet people, befriend people who worked in museums, and then gain access to things that I wouldn't normally have had access to back then, but now you have access to all that stuff. You can find Eusebius of Caesarea's writings online. Back when I was doing it, I had to find like a PhD paperwork that was based on that, so I can understand whether or not the translation I was getting from the curators at these different museums were the same. So it took a lot more, but now things are a lot easier to find out that information. No. At the time frame of the Council of Nicaea, Christians were reading so many different books, and you had so many different canons. Like when you look at Marcion's canon, which is one of the earliest canons that we can find today. I believe Marcion canon, the New Testament, only had about 8 books in it. It was like Marcion's Gospel and like 7 of Paul's letters, and that was it in the Old Testament. Now, the Old Testament was the Septuagint, and that was already complete by this time frame. Judaism had already closed the canon on, I think they had closed the canon in like the 2nd century. So they had closed the canon. So the Septuagint, the Old Testament was the Old Testament. The Council of Nicaea, it was after that Athanasius starts putting out what he thinks the canon should be. And it wasn't until like 379, 360 something, 369, somewhere around in there, I forget which council it was done at, that they finally did the canon. But even that was still argued for the next 700 years. Right. So yes, exactly. The Old Testament was already put together. Yes, in the Marcion, God was the demiurge. Marcion was Gnostic. He was a Gnostic. And then you got to recognize, anytime you go and you research anything about Marcion, recognize, first of all, you're reading, you won't find anything Marcion wrote. You won't find anything written by people who were Marcion. Everything you're reading is by somebody who was against him. So imagine politically, whoever your candidate is, but the only information you hear about your candidate is coming from the opposition. It said that some chapters were left out of the Bible. So the Bible has this is one reason why I deconstructed from the Bible, because when you look at the Bible itself, there are chapters, verses, parts that were not part of the oldest version that you have, and there were parts that were added in and parts that was taken away. What was it? Like Mark, for instance. At the end of Mark, it just said, and the tomb was empty. That's it, nothing else. Everything else you read at the end of Mark was added to it. The story about the woman who came up to Jesus, where they brought the woman who committed adultery, was never part of John. You find the oldest version of John is not part of it. It was added in. So you have a bunch of parts of the Bible that's added and put in and taken out, put in and taken out for the first 400 years or so, 400 or 500 years of the Bible. So it's all cobbled together. And there is an argument right now amongst scholastic circles that say that the book of Luke wasn't even an original, that Luke was actually an expounding on Marcion's gospel and renamed to Luke. No, not Marcian, Marcian, Marcian. Oh, that was from Trauma. I shouldn't even have responded to that because I know some foolishness. That could be arranged. We could talk about the Gnostics upon occasion. Um, One way that if you want to see something that is really concerning the Gnostics, if you go onto my YouTube channel and look in the playlist, under the playlist, you will see the Gospel of Thomas. A lot was covered during the Gospel of Thomas. Yes, ma'am. No, because that's too loud. It's going down there. Oh, you gonna do all the stuff? I didn't do it. Let me open this window all the way before I get in trouble from the missus. That Nicaraguan smoke is smokier than other cigars. So it's getting past my little air filtration over there. Now, I just saw the first line in this one. But his biggest disapproval in Christianity is all the death caused by it. Whether death is because of your whether death because of your religion or the fight over the Holy Lands, Inquisitions, how many died. It's crazy how much death the big three religions have caused. One of the death tolls that people never talk about is the fact that when Theodosius declared Christianity to be the only religion of the Roman Empire, not only did they go out and kill some of the non-Christians, but they went out and massacred the Gnostic Christians as well. So even those of similar beliefs in Christianity, but claiming a different denomination, they were massacred as well. It depends on where you go in North Carolina, but I only been to Wilmington for a cigar lounge. I've never been to a cigar lounge in any other part of North Carolina. We say that the Bible is a compilation of stories and myths that's stolen from other cultures and manipulated in order to control people. I would definitely say that the Bible by which we have today is certainly that. The Old Testament is really more a group of people who had separated themselves from their other Canaanite brothers and sisters and manufactured their own history based on common Mediterranean themes and cobbled together their own history, not so much stealing from other myths, but just utilizing the similarities of other myths that they had already known about. It's kind of like if you want to be Jim Jones, you don't destroy the whole thing. You take parts of it. If you want to be Joseph Smith, you don't destroy all of Christianity. You take enough to create Mormons. So the Canaanites that began to call themselves Israelites took enough to then separate themselves and call themselves Israelites because Yahweh was a Canaanite deity already. And Yahweh was also an Assyrian and Sumerian Akkadian deity named Enlil. So that the Old Testament would be that. And then some historical stuff towards the very end of it, of just the places and people, but none of the miracles. Christianity, on the other hand, was a control mechanism created by Vespasian, well, ordered by Vespasian, in order to get rid of Judaism. And then as it didn't work, it was then more manufactured into this story that they did borrow from other Mediterranean cultures, but it kind of like got out of their control. You know, it's like you want crack to shut down the black community in California, but then it gets out of control and get into the suburbs. And now you got a whole big problem on your hand. So now we got to have a war on drugs. And that the Council of Nicaea was that coming together of the war on drugs. And yes, I just pulled that last example out of my ass. wouldn't be able to summarize the book of James because I can't remember a lot of it right now. And thank you for reminding me, Renee. I forgot to put the link out there. Renee, are you going to come on? Are you going to talk to us, Renee? Now, Renee, you asked about it. Are you going to come talk to us? Y'all see, Renee asked for the link, and I just put the link out. So I just put the StreamYard link out on Facebook and on YouTube. And this is a very intriguing statement. When everyone dies, it's very hard to keep history for more than 100 years. Does anyone remember Pearl Harbor? History is a strange thing when all we have is present development. And you have to be able to think about it like this, what he's saying. It would be very difficult to prove Pearl Harbor didn't happen because we know it happened. We got video of it, right? We got so much technology. We've had so much technology in the last 100 years to be able to validate most of history as being real, right? To at least to a certain. Now, there's some backwater stuff that goes on. Did FDR know that they were getting ready to bomb Pearl Harbor? Yes. Now we know that there were no weapons of mass destruction. Yes. So there are things that come out later on, that lies that people are told in the present time, but we can verify most history today. You couldn't verify history back then. How are you going to verify history back then? Because somebody wrote it down? Oh no, not even. All right. Well, hello, Renee in the dark.
Hey, how you
How you
doing?
doing?
Why are you in the dark?
Well, I just got home and I turned it on and I got groceries, so I hadn't gotten the house yet. But when you said that the thugs and the drug dealers, they all have angel wings and everything,
Uh-huh.
it made me think about when I was a teenager. I was about 14, 15, and I was at this point where I was telling mom and them, I just cannot be a Christian. I just can't go along with it. This man had gave his wife diseases on 14 occasions. And they were steady preaching about a woman should do this and you should do that and you can't do this and you have to do this for your man, blah, 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 blah. You got to be on your woman job, all this other crap. So my uncle was sitting behind me. It had to be somebody kin to me, and I don't know who the guy was. But my uncle was behind me, and the reverend first thing he said was, he was a loving man. And my uncle behind me raised up behind me and he whispered, he was loving everybody. And I said, as long as he had a skirt on, and I started laughing. I thought I was whispering, but everybody in the church heard me, and they didn't like me. I'm like, oh my God. He was loving everybody as long as he had a skirt on. So when you said it's like, oh my God, look, I've got to tell this story. And then one of the women that he was sleeping with was there, and she said, I got to find me another sugar daddy. I'm like, oh, is that what
Oh,
you call
man.
him? But that's all I wanted. That's why I just can't get down with Christianity. He can go do whatever he wants. But as long as a woman's doing this and doing that, it's like, no, I'm good. I'm good on that. I don't need it.
There is a lot of that. People have these romanticized ideas about their loved ones after they die, and when they're giving a funeral, they just say these things that don't match the personality. And I've been to funerals where people are snickering about whatever somebody is saying up there because they know they lying.
Uh-huh. It's like,
Mhm.
how come the pulpit don't catch on fire? How come lightning's not striking that pulpit right now?
It should.
Yeah, but they tell us thou shalt not lie. Wasn't that a lie you just told right there? But if you look at it, it probably really wasn't, because he was a loving everybody man.
I mean, he was loving everybody.
He was. The Bible said, "Love everybody."
He was definitely doing some loving.
All right, that's all I wanted. All right,
All
I'll keep
right.
listening. All right, bye
Appreciate
bye.
it. Bye-bye.
Well, why is this not going through my?
What's up, Crimson?
Hey, how you doing, Coach? I'm wondering why this isn't going through my AirPods at the current moment. All right. Hello.
I'm here. Renee, go ahead and close out so you'll be able to get back on the primary. That's just for Renee. Crimson, I saw you. Now you're gone.
Oh, should be back. We good?
Yep.
Long time no see, Coach. How you doing, man?
Pretty good.
That's good. Well, on topic, in regards to the Nicene Council and everything, I had made a comment earlier as far in the chat in regards to I don't understand how, like, after learning about the Nicene Council and what happened as far as them canonizing, um, if I'm not if I'm not mistaken, specifically canonizing the Trinitarian doctrine, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Um, like after just hearing about that and all the other councils that happened in lieu of trying to canonize the Bible, like once you hear about that, and if you were studious enough to go do any research, they didn't never say that God came down and instructed them on which books should go in and which books should go out. God never came down and spoke to them.
No. They claim to be divinely inspired.
I'm divinely inspired. I mean, the fallacy that people still have after, like, once all it takes, it doesn't even take that much, like, critical, like, just scrutiny, honestly, of the Bible. Like, as far as, like, trying to place it in its time and frame and everything like that. I asked another question in the chat in regards to monotheism. Do you think monotheism would have came about if it wasn't for the Bronze Age collapse?
That's a good question. That's a good question. But so that, because my mind works on two levels.
Mm-hmm.
So while my mind is working on that thought, let me give you a little bit about the canon part.
Okay.
One of the reasons why I think that they canonized the Bible the way they did and thought that it was divinely inspired, because by 325 they already had certain heroes. That one hero being Justin Martyr, because he died for the sin of, he died for the sake of Christianity. That was he was in around 150 CE. And then follow that up by 180, you have Irenaeus. Both Irenaeus and Justin Martyr read what would become the Gospels of Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. Irenaeus is the one who named them, gave them those names. Justin Martyr just calls them the wisdom of the apostles.
Mm-hmm.
So, since there were already certain books, we changed the battery. I just didn't. I don't have the other fan on, so it's going out the door. That's outside of my door. So we got like 6 smoke alarms in this house.
You just fit the stereotype, Coach.
Huh?
I said you just fit the stereotype, Coach.
No, it's not going to beep. It ain't doing that. All right. So my wife will handle it. So I think the canonization followed this process of who they already believe in second century, their second century bishops that they already revered.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think it's more of that. Now, as far as the Bronze Age collapse, it's an interesting question because during the time frame of the Bronze Age collapse,
I'm sorry, I have roommates in there. I apologize.
Let them shut the hell up. But so the Bronze Age collapse happens around what, 1100, 1000 BCE, right?
To be specific, it kicks off around 1200 BC.
1200?
The battle, Yeah, the Battle of the Delta, which is
right after the Egyptians got their ass whooped by the
yeah, that's 1177
all right.
BC.
All
And
right.
Ugarit falls like around, which is like the Hittite Empire, that falls like around 1180 or 1190, somewhere around there.
Hold on, let me turn this other fan on so it'll help her out.
All right.
Hopefully it won't be too loud in here. I know she's probably fanning away. All right, so where are the Persians at this time frame?
I believe the Persians are still in their land for they're still Mesopotamia, all like northern. Right. Yeah, they're still in their land. I think at that part in time, Ugarit is still standing, and Ugarit is where you get all of the archaeological evidence of El and Asherah, the Asherah poles and everything like that. That's like that's like Lower Syria area. And then
Akhenaten had been disposed of in the 1400s. So, and that was only like a 17-year reign that he got to preach monotheism.
If anything, that was more henotheism. I wouldn't say monotheism.
Well,
I would think that most like early like Israelites or Hebrews all would fall under the umbrella of henotheism.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They do fall under henotheism, but they believe that their God is the supreme God. That other people gods are, well, no, they believe other people gods existed. And even in the worship of the Octane, they believe that other people gods existed. So that was still henotheism. You don't really get it until the Persians rise up. So the question would have to be, if the Persians would the Persians have been able to conquer the Levant and Egypt and become the Persian Empire that they became? So I still think we would have got it because the Persians still would have conquered.
Yeah, that was Zoroastrianism, correct?
So that would be Zoroastrianism, which was a monotheistic. Zoroastrianism didn't believe your other gods existed.
True that.
They were like, nah, this is just a Ahura Mazda.
Yeah, it's Ahura Mazda, and that's it.
Yeah, Ahura Mazda is the good god, and Agramenia is the devil. Then there's nothing else. There's gonna be this big battle at the end. Okay, I gotta take a quick time out because my wife is on the struggle bus. No, you stay here. Matter of fact, yes, why don't you tell everybody your thoughts on how monotheism would have stayed around?
I got you. I'm gonna see if I can look at the chat in the meantime. I'm not sure I can. Okay, so according to Dorian, it lasted circa 1200 to 1000 BC. I could see that being a possibility for the simple fact that when the Hebrews went into Babylonian captivity, they got the concept of a hell from Zoroastrianism. So that makes sense. You can go before 1000 BC though, Dorian, for the simple the biscuit's still on. You can go before 1000 for ancient Israelite for the simple fact that El is their chief god. And El has been worshipped for a lot longer. My bad, Coach. I was answering people in the chat.
It took a man. Let me talk some shit so my wife can have something to say. It took a man to turn that smoke alarm off.
All right. Talk your way up, straight up out of the good times.
So, well, go ahead.
No, I was reading some of the comments from the stream in regards to what Dorian has said as far as the time frame of Zoroastrianism and ancient Israelite or Hebrew. The Zoroastrian time frame makes sense as far as the 1200 to 1000 BC, but I would say that you can predate the Israelite pantheon or belief system before 1000 BC because the worship of El, which is the chief god, or El Elyon, which is the chief god of the Hebrews, is also shown reverence in Ugarit. And Ugarit falls 1190 BC, or probably closer, around 1190. And I'm sure that the practice of the worship of El and Asherah was around that time, or was before that time. So I had to been well off into the 1200 BC. So,
well, it's going to be well into the 1200 BCs, because you remember the Meneptah Stele talks about how Pharaoh Meneptah came in and conquered a people group
called the Israelites. And that was 2 generations before Ramses III.
Yeah, that was like 1204.
Meneptah is Ramses' it's his grandfather. So Ramses III is the grandson of Meneptah. I've been doing a lot of research on the Bronze Age collapse. I'm not sure if I told you. We had an understanding, as far as me supposed to be uploading to my channel. And we had that conversation a long time ago, Coach, and I have no excuses on that.
I know.
Yeah. But with that being said, I have been working on something else in the meantime. I decided to write my own work of fiction based off of the Bronze Age collapse from the viewpoint of the Peliset.
Of the who?
The Peliset, the ancient Philistines.
Oh, Philistines.
Before they got settled into the Levant, they were a part of the Sea Peoples. And the Sea Peoples are the ones that came and raided the Mediterranean during the Bronze Age collapse. And a lot of people attributed it, or people that outside of like just natural famine and disaster and stuff like that, they attributed the Sea Peoples as the ones that brought on the devastation, or that brought on the collapse. The Peliset being one of the groups that were a part of the Sea Peoples. You have the Sekelesh, the Wajet, there's a couple other names, but they're given in names based off of Ramses III. Ramses III being the pharaoh at the time that stopped the invasion of the Sea Peoples into Egypt, because they were trying to just find land. Nobody to this day knows where out of the Mediterranean or the Aegean Sea that the Sea Peoples came from. But the Peliset being one of the groups that Ramses later, after the Battle of the Delta, settled. He settles them in the Levant, and funny enough, he settles them in Gaza and surrounding cities. And then that's where later down the line, that's where the sonic name, as far as like the name that we call it, Palestine, Philistina, all that derives from the word Peliset, which is what Ramses III called that specific group of sea people that came to that land.
Right. Okay. I'm saying right, not because I agree, or well, not say agree. Like I know what the hell you're talking about. That's going to be a learning for me. So now I'm gonna hold you to that writing.
There's like the Amarna letters, which is like correspondence between the Hittite Empire and the Pharaoh of the time. It predates the actual collapse by, I want to say it's the correspondence. I forget Ramses' dad's name. So Meneptah's son. It's Meneptah's son, but Ramses' father. There's the Amarna letters are correspondence between him and the Hittite ruler or Hittite Empire, talking about pretty much how things are starting to, how there's unrest in the people, not enough food. Exactly.
Yeah. And some people trying to claim that the Hebrew to which they was talking about in there were the Hebrews, and they have absolutely nothing to do with each other
at all. It's just phonetically similar.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Take a man, don't it, Coach?
That was good. Well, I couldn't get the battery out without breaking it. So I put it where the wind is constantly blowing on it from outside. And that phone still kept.
Yep.
I'm gonna throw it down the street. If my wife is listening, just go put it in the garage. Just put it in the garage. Which I think is what she's doing right now. Okay. So oh man. No, but I will be very interested in reading about that, in reading your book, your world building, because I think that'd be very interesting. But when you and earlier, and Dorian brought it up again, when you're talking about El, you have to understand the pathway of El. El begins in, actually, if you want to look at it, El begins in the 4000s, at least 4000 to 6000 BCE timeframe, as a Anunnaki deity named Enlil.
Mm-hmm.
And then as he becomes an Akkadian Assyrian god, he's now known as El.
Mm-hmm.
And then he becomes the Canaanite god El. And from El, he has a child named Yahweh with his wife Asherah. And then at Yahweh is then
ends up marrying Asherah somehow, which is
Sumerian Asherah. And then in the Canaanite pantheon, Yahweh becomes El and is still married to Asherah.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally they get rid of Asherah. So
yeah,
you could stretch it that far, but realistically, as far as Israelites are concerned, what the people who will become Israelites, you can only really go by as far as around 1300 BCE, just to give them time enough to develop so that Manasseh can kick their ass in 1204.
Exactly.
So as far as a date, that's about as much as you can stretch it.
Yeah. And I know this is not necessarily the topic, but since we're talking about as far as like how things are split, I know you've already covered the book of Deuteronomy, but was it Deuteronomy 32:8?
Yep.
Huh? Is that my audio?
I don't know what happened.
Okay, but I know you've already covered the book of Deuteronomy, but specifically Deuteronomy 32:8 and 9, where it's talking about the Elyon gives Yahweh his portion of people.
You're right.
So,
well,
like,
yeah,
I really wish like they didn't. I mean, hindsight being 2020 or whatever, but when Christians go to church and they read that, and it says in the King James version that when the Most High gave his, I forget how it reads it, but it uses two different words. It says when the Most High gave the Lord his portion of people, Jacob, which is Israel,
right?
It's like, how do y'all not? How if I own everything, how can I give myself a portion of something that I already have? That's one. And then two, the Hebrew language that is given there, the word that is used for the Most High is El Elyon, and the word that is used for Lord is Yahweh. There's two different people.
Completely.
And that then parallels back to the lineage that you were given as far as Enlil going to El, going to Yahweh, going to God.
Well, see, what God was really doing right there was that he was demonstrating how he was only going to be the God of the Israelites, his chosen people.
Mm-hmm.
So he was saying the rest of the world can go and worship other gods because he gave them lands, but those were the only ones that God gave a people. And those people were given back to himself through himself as Yahweh. See, so it demonstrates how God was showing that he is going to give the people to himself as the son of Elyon, because Yahweh is the son of Elyon, which was a precursor to Jesus. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's what he really, because that's how a Christian would.
And that's why the chicken crossed the road.
That's why what?
That's why the chicken crossed the road.
That's why the chicken crossed the road. Exactly. So that's really because that confirmation bias is going to force that to become the narrative.
And like I work in IT. I have a system administrator that I share an office with. By no stretch of the imagination would I ever speak bad on this guy. He is a wonderful human being, first and foremost. Just a good guy to be around, have conversations with, and he's open-minded. However, just like many of us, he grew up in the church. His father is a pastor, still plays in the church, still attends church services and stuff like that. So just me being who I am, just having just regular dialogue. Of course, religion will come up as a topic. And he knows that I'm not a Christian, but I study religion.
Right.
So I'll bring something up to his attention. Like I brought up the Deuteronomy 32:8 when I said, how can you, if you own everything, how can you give a portion of something that you already own to yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And I had him read the original Hebrew as far as what the words that were used in that chapter. And I sat and I watched him try to use mental gymnastics to try to justify the point that El Elyon and Yahweh are the same person. So I was like, okay, if that's the case, go look up the divine council.
Right, you got divine council, which is in that portion of Deuteronomy. It talks about how the B'nai Elohim was given their portions, and they were given land, and meaning the land, and so the people that are within that land. If you go in and out of that land, that's the land of that God. Which actually sounds just like how Anu, when he got tired of the Anunnaki fighting each other, decided, I'm going to give lands for different people within the Anunnaki sector. Like Ilnana got the mess with in the Indus Valley area, you know, and Marduk got Egypt. But then Enki didn't get any land. He got the
Absu
and go everywhere. He did get the Absu as a lab, kind of a laboratory, but as far as worship, he didn't get a worship space. He just got a space. He could go everywhere and set up shops and conduct his activities. But all the other Anunnakis got land and people. So it's like they took that thought process from the Sumerians and it filtered into their thinking.
By natural selection, for the simple fact that, now I ain't gonna say natural selection, because it's related. Like one happened because the other happened in the other religion, and one is a child of the other religion. Just like Christianity is the child of Judaism. Judaism is the child of the ancient Sumerian pantheon.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, it comes down from the ancient Sumerian, because even the Canaanite religion comes from the Sumerian Akkadian religion as well.
Agreed.
Now, and then the only question is, where do the Sumerians get their shit from? We have no idea.
And that's what I was going to ask you, Coach. Now, I understand, and I remember from our conversation in person, where you stand as far as how everything came about. As far as I understand the Hermetic principles that you know, that's what you more so along with. And I'm starting to, I mean, for a while, I've strayed away from any type of dogmatic religion. I think if anything that I've subscribed to would have been the 7 Hermetic principles. However, on the topic of human evolution,
all right,
explain that second chromosome to me being fused, Coach. Because I'm sorry, when I go back and I'm listening to I'm listening to people give their depictions of what's on the cuneiform tablets of the ancient Sumerian doctrines or whatever. It sounds far-fetched, but that second chromosome, man, scientists still cannot explain how that happened. And that is the biggest difference between us and chimps.
Okay. So you see what my man put up there, King Luther?
Recycled, okay.
Recycled. Now, I have said this before.
Okay.
It is my most logical thought process. So the Kemetics, the Egyptians used to teach, they taught us a system that everything rises and falls. There's a golden age and back down to silver, to copper, to iron, and then back up to a golden age, and so on and so forth. The Aztecs taught the same thing with their Mayan calendar, right? I mean, the Mayan.
So did the Hindu and the Hindu. Yep, with the Kali Yugas.
Exactly, Kali Yugas, all that shit. So when I look at the natural Earth and the history that we know, there was an ice age that lasted about 40,000 years. The last one ended with the Younger Dryas flood. I know that most civilizations live coastal, just like we do today. Whatever civilization that was before, I think there was a more advanced, maybe earthen, a first Earth level civilization that existed prior to this last ice age. And when I say first Earth meaning that they were technologically advanced enough to utilize the energies of the Earth to facilitate their infrastructure and growth.
Yeah, off the ley lines, etc. Yeah.
Right, which is why they built with earthen material instead of steel and plaster and shit like we do today.
Mm-hmm.
First Earth, first planetary, level 1 planetary civilizations. I think the stories of the Anunnaki, the stories of Quetzalcoatl, and all of these, and the stories of Atlantis,
Thoth, and all of the rest,
are the remnants of this civilization 50,000 years ago. That the majority died through the Ice Age, and the rest, and the next majority died at the Younger Dryas flood,
impact or whatever. Yeah.
Right. I'm thinking solar flare, because all that ice melted in 6 days. So I'm thinking solar flare.
Now, question: have you seen the western bank, the western half of the Sahara?
Yeah.
Like
no.
Zoomed out on like a Google Earth map.
No.
I'm not saying that the Richat structure is it.
It's possible. I want it to be.
It looks like it.
It looks like it, and I would certainly want it to be. The only problem that I would have with the Richat structure being Atlantis is that when the Younger Dryas flood happened, it's kind of like the video that I did earlier today, where I explained how an ice age happens and the Younger Dryas flood would have happened.
Mm-hmm.
So,
the whiteboard, Lord.
Let's see if I can do it again. All right, so you got land. This is land, right?
Uh-huh.
All right. And then this is the water, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our normal process is the water evaporates and it rains down, right?
Yes, sir.
This water comes back into the ocean.
Yep.
Agreed?
Yes, sir.
Now, during the ice age, though, as this water evaporates, it forms ice on the land. It doesn't go back into the ocean. So over time, the land mass extends out to where the ocean was at, and now the waters start about here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all of this, you got people over 10,000 years or so, they like, oh shit, we got land. We living out here.
Mm-hmm.
This is why Lemuria is theorized.
Lemuria, yeah.
Because you got lemurs from Africa and India and out into the Southwest Asia areas. And it's like, how the hell did they get there?
Yep.
Right? But these lemurs, same lemurs. Now, when all of this melts, all of a sudden these people drown. Because the sea level is going to return back to its original state.
Agreed.
Right? We agree?
Mm-hmm.
So if the Younger Dryas return sea levels back to their original state, fuck, I just messed up my own thought process. I was going to say the Richat structure could not have been it, but it still could have been, because the tidal waves could have flooded it and
washed that thing straight off, and that's exactly what you see.
And then the water receded back. You know what? You make me sick.
That is exactly what you see on the west coast,
and that is what it looks like.
And on top of that, there's whale bones found directly near the Richat structure.
Yes.
So,
because I was wanting it to be somewhere around in the Bahamas, because I want the Bimini Road. The Bimini Road is killing me.
Okay, the Bimini Road is a nice anomaly. It's a great anomaly. However, when you realize that the mountain structure that is right to the north of the Richat structure is called the Atlas Mountains, and Plato, I believe it's Plato, stated that Atlantis had mountains to the north.
Yeah.
Named after their god Atlas. Come on.
Okay. Shit. There are no islands that are directly north of the Bahamas that could have been a mountain range. Bermuda would have been too far away.
Way too far away.
You know what? I can't stand you right now. Because I want, now don't get me wrong, I would love for the reshot structure to be Atlantis as well. I'll be happy for whichever way it goes. But to my point, I think that the small remnant of civilization that survived the Younger Dryas flood is who the Anunnaki and Quetzalcoatl and Thoth and all these people are. Tahuti, that's who they are.
Okay, so you think they had advanced science far enough to where they can do genome splicing?
Dude, do you know how far advanced science? Remember I said a level 1 planet. That means that you have been able to harness the energy
of the planet,
of the Earth.
Yeah.
And that's just first levels of energy of the Earth. Like you are harnessing volcanic eruptions, earthquakes. You are harnessing the energy of the oceans to its fullest degree. All that stuff. That's just level 1. We ain't even talking about level 5. We're talking about 1. We ain't got into a Dyson sphere yet. Just level 1.
Dyson spheres are. I've done a little bit of research on Dyson sphere, and I need to go back and brush up on it. But if that type of civilization does exist, I'm surprised it hasn't found us yet.
They might have. They just like, we don't want to deal with them crazy asses. Would you come to Earth?
If I was like an advanced civilization, would I come to Earth?
Yeah. Earth. We still killing each other. Yeah, we're warmongering. We're killing each other.
Exploitation.
Exploitation. Unless you're a society that exploits people, yes. Then I would come. If we were the Klingons, I would come and kick Earth's ass.
Now,
but
with everything else that's been going on, and I want to say I've recently had an experience like earlier this year. And I know it's been happening a lot more around the country, around the globe. I saw UFOs, Coach.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt that. Okay. Do I think that there are other beings that exist out in the universe? Yes. Those beings would have to be at level 2, level 3. Because the distance, you can't travel like Star Trek travel
at all.
That the friction, the dark matter friction rubbing against whatever you got, gonna burn your ass up.
To go at adequate speeds enough.
Right. Adequate is gonna burn you. If you traveling at light speed, which adequate speed would have to be 8, 9, 10 times the speed of light to make it make sense. So you would have to be at a level where you are folding space or you find wormholes or something, and wormholes is a theory, but you have to be able to fold space in order
to travel that far,
that fast, to reach out that far. The interest in Earth without coming here to conquer the whole damn thing, I don't see it.
Minerals, gold.
But I know, but they haven't exploited that way. Because why just show up and be in the air and then just be hovering around? Or try to infiltrate governments and all that kind of bullshit. No, you just bring an armada and you just take it.
Now, here's the question, okay? Going back to the ancient Sumerians, as far as the reason why they came here. Why would they come here? What did they planet need, Coach?
Because they wouldn't be coming here from somewhere else. Because a first level civilization, they would understand the philosopher's stone of alchemy and how to utilize the monotonic leftover of gold in order to expand and continue your life, to be able to increase your brain capacity. So gold was needed not to fix their atmosphere, because it was a precious health related material as well as a construction level material. If you were able, so they had some type of electricity, right? If you ran, where are you?
Georgia still.
Huh?
Georgia still.
All right, you in Georgia. I'm in Texas. If we ran a line from from San Antonio to wherever you at in Georgia, but it was gold based, the wiring was gold. The charge that it starts out with would be the same charge when it gets to you. Yep. But if we're using copper and all these other lesser metals, the amount of energy it decreases. So gold is so universal in its application. And if you know, and alchemists have known for a long time, if you are ingesting these metals at the right amount, it helps you recover.
It has restorative properties.
It has all these restorative properties. So they were looking for gold. I don't think they were looking for gold for their atmosphere, because the planet Nibiru don't make sense.
Okay, so
it makes absolutely no sense.
I'm not going to argue the planet Nibiru's existence. However, I will argue the science behind dust particles being sprinkled across the ozone layer, which can reflect and fix a leak in the ozone.
And maybe it was Earth's ozone.
It's a possibility.
Because what people don't know is that we did that. I don't know how old you are, but remember when we was having problems with the ozone layer?
When are we having problems with the ozone layer? When was this? I'm 29, but
yeah. Back in like the 80s, 90s.
Okay, yeah, no,
it was all about the ozone layer got a hole in it down near Antarctica, and there was a couple other places and so on and so forth. But no, yeah. But you don't hear about it no more because we fixed it. Now I'll tell you this other thing. Let's see, how can I put this gently? In my years in the military, I have seen some vehicles flying off of a base that I was like, what the hell? And that there was in this one particular base I'm thinking about, there is a hidden landing strip that no one can go near. And they only take off at night, never during the day. And basically it's a place for experimental aircraft on this particular base. So some of the things I think people are seeing as UFOs is this experimental shit that we coming up with, or other countries are also coming up with, because we ain't the only ones coming up with it.
Okay, so
but it could be that we're getting technologies from the remnants that still might be here, but they are earthen. They're not somewhere else.
Explain the Dogon tribe.
Again. Level 1 civilization
that would require time travel. Nah, the Dogon tribe will require time travel because they said they had people come visit them and show them
Sirius. And show them that Sirius A had Sirius B, and that around Sirius B is a solar system of planets, and then the DNA wobble that it does, all that stuff. If we were level 1, we would see that. But we ain't even level 1 and we see it.
But this is the ancient Dogon said that their people are that the tradition has been told down through time, right? So their ancient ancestors were visited by some different beings. We don't know the time frame or anything like that, as far as how long or how far ago that their ancient peoples were told this tale. However, we do know that it's something that has been passed down. It's something that it was told and known to other scientists before we even made the discovery that those things existed. So, with that being said, unless the Dogon people existed before the flood, I mean, before the Younger Dryas.
I mean, I'm sure there were people in that area.
Yeah, because it's like inland Africa.
Yeah, it's Mali. It's the country of Mali.
It is Mali. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I got some family members way back in the day. One of the boats came from there.
You look like you got a couple kinfolk.
Yeah, I got some kinfolk there in Nigeria, but so if you are this previous civilization, would you tell them your actual history, or will you make yourself grander to make them think that you're a god and they would worship you?
I don't even think it would be necessary to make myself grander. Like, look at cargo cults. If I have something that they don't, then they're gonna deify me themselves.
For everybody who don't know what a cargo code is, because he just threw it out there. Cargo code is these island people in the South Pacific who, when during World War II, when the Air Force showed up to relocate them and took them on airplanes, they started worshiping the Air Force, and primarily a dude named John Frum. You probably said I'm John from Cincinnati, but they call him John Frum. And so because they had never seen airplanes and all that kind of stuff, they think that John Frum is a god and all that. Okay, go ahead.
So, all right. So
black screening us now. We saw you smoking whatever the hell it is you smoking.
No, my bad. I was going back to read the comments. I was reading the comments from the live, just trying to make sure I get caught up with everybody else. My apologies.
Oh no, yeah. I'm just messing with you.
But I would say I wouldn't have to necessarily deify myself. I think if I think even today, like if somebody with more advanced technology were to come out, like if I had like the iPhone 20,
yeah,
and I popped out with the iPhone 20, I think there's some people that are low-minded enough to, oh, he got something that's futuristic, and then will follow me. We still have followers today. So
yeah.
I think that's more so how that would transpire. I don't think I would have to like necessarily go and call myself a god.
Let's say the whole world goes through some type of situation again. But me, you, and everybody on this live, the 80 people here, we survive. And we have enough knowledge between all of us to be able to fly planes and helicopters. And the only people who survive are the people in the Sentinel Islands, right? Now, the Sentinel Island people, they just now learning what helicopters and shit are. But let's say it was 30 years ago when they didn't know what all that stuff was. In order for us to make sure we are safe, I'm going to make us bigger than we are. Because I need them to worship me, to worship all 80 of us, so that they will never harm us. I would want them to think that we're gods and we come from the stars and we got all this power, and if you don't worship us, you're going to be destroyed.
That is an interesting angle. So using that
self-preservation,
using that same angle, would you say that Yahweh used self-preservation?
Hell yeah. That if Yahweh is actually Enlil, then that whole thing is self-preservation. Our civilization has just been destroyed. We need to rebuild, but the only thing that we got, to go back to your original thing, the only thing that we got is these other humanoids that we've known been around for a while. We just didn't think too much about them, but we need to speed up their genetics. So we're going to fuse this DNA together to make them better, so that they can serve us, because we need to rebuild civilization. That's why the Sumerians just popped out of nowhere. The Kush and Punt and Egypt just popped out of nowhere. Gobekli Tepe and Turan Tepe just popping out of nowhere.
Unaccounted for. Now, yeah. But here, as far as genetic diversity, though, that whatever percent, because I think the difference between humans and chimps is like 99.8, if I'm not mistaken, or 98.9 or
98.9 or something like that.
98.9 or something like that. What is the other percentage that's different? And if we're going off of how you presented it, and you know what angle I'm about to take, if I'm already a human that already existed on this planet, or humanoid, shall I say,
right,
that already existed on this planet, how would me splicing my DNA into another primate's DNA cause a genetic difference that is still unaccounted for to this day?
Because it wasn't spliced, according to their story, it wasn't spliced into another hominid's DNA. It was spliced into an Anunnaki's DNA.
It was.
Remember, Dumuzi was not Dumuzi, but some other Anunnaki.
One of them
was killed in order to utilize his blood and body to splice it in with the egg and then implant it into Ninharsag or one of the other Anunnaki women.
And they were one of them,
yeah, and they were the ones to birth out the
Adapu or Adamu or whatever.
Adapu and Adam. They went through like 16 versions before they got it right.
Yeah.
So It wasn't. It was spliced with their own DNA, not spliced with another.
So there still doesn't explain that 0.1 or 0.2% that is different from everything else.
But that is the difference that was needed in order to get the right kind to make Homo sapien.
Okay, so whatever that, we concede the point that whatever it was that was here before us wasn't us.
No, the civilization before wasn't us. It was different, similar enough, but not us.
Okay, we can agree on that part then.
Kind of like a cat and a tiger. Similar enough, but they ain't the same
family, the same phenotype, but different.
But a different
kind or whatever.
Kind that a tiger and a cat is not going to have a baby together. Tiger and a lion can, but a tiger and a cat, no. So difference enough to take, if we did some kind of gene splicing and we mixed it up, you might get an octolot or a jaguar or something.
I got you.
But you ain't going to get a tiger, but you're getting something better than a cat.
Okay. So whatever higher being mixed their essence into the primitive lower being that was already here to make us.
Yes. That part.
Okay, I can follow that on the simple aspect. I was I want to say it was like 2 days ago. I was watching a documentary, someone covering the human evolution from when we first climbed out of the trees as primates or as chimps to how we became Homo habilis, Homo erectus, all the way up to modern day man. And if none of this extra spiritual, extra or extraterrestrial, whatever you want to call it, interference happened, right, I think the most logical thing is that a monkey got off a tree and had a mean shroom trip. And that shroom connected more neurological pathways in his brain that allowed his brain to grow.
I've read this one.
Yes. I think that makes the most sense.
I've read that one where they didn't say a monkey. It didn't say a monkey. It talked about how the common ancestor, and then when the common ancestor split, because some people think that we came from monkeys, but that's not what evolution says. But the common ancestors that would become Homo sapien was eating some shrooms, and that mind started connecting in a different way. And
it wired up different neurological pathways. It's actually found in science today that psilocybin still to this day has that same effect for the human brain.
Why for people that are? That's why I use the microdose.
I'm trying to.
Wait. I'm not telling y'all that y'all need to be using any shrooms. That is illegal. Y'all should not do it. I'm telling you not to do it.
Coach Renz is a bad influence, y'all.
Get it out.
But I will say, before I do leave this earth, I would like to try ayahuasca.
Oh. Yeah, I am not recommending that you go to a country like Jamaica or down in South America where you can experience ayahuasca. I am not telling you to do that, but you can. But there are places.
There are places. I've done my research
in Jamaica who does it on the regular, and you can schedule a whole group trip to go to Jamaica.
Yep.
And do it. That'll be the cheapest way for you to go. And I know
I don't feel that safe going to Brazil or anywhere in the Amazon rainforest.
Nope. His wife.
Not at all.
His wife and her group go every year.
Ayahuasca trips every year sounds.
Matter of fact, I think it's coming up soon. I think they go in it's either March or May that they go. I think it's May.
Okay. And have you heard any of their personal experiences?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So
wonderful.
The mushroom hypothesis is plausible.
I think it is. The government would never want that to be widely known. because they would not want people to. I ain't planning no damn trip. Sorry. Get me planning your little illegal ass trip.
Plan a mass exodus down the.
Don't get me. Hell no. You get me to do it. But shit, what was I saying? Oh yeah, like that's something that they wouldn't want you to know about or do, because even our government itself, there's data, there's information that shows that the CIA, the company, experimented with different types of, mental capabilities using LSD and mushrooms. So
the 70s.
Yeah, in the 70s, peace, love, and happiness. Actually, it was happening in the 50s, the 40s. Actually, it started in the 40s.
I don't find that surprising. Most likely tested on black men.
Well, the Germans was trying it too.
Oh, Germans for sure. Now that I think about it,
the Germans were trying.
Yeah, they were very mystics. Yeah, there were a lot of mystics.
Yeah, they were very much into the mystical world, the esoteric world. So these things are, I think these things are well known and well documented, and I know wholeheartedly that those things will expand your mind, open your mind. Now, I don't think everybody can just take it though. If you are a person of anxieties, if you are a person of fears and all these things and paranoia, it's going to increase those paranoias and fears. So you got to have your mind right, basically, before you go do
some meditation.
Those things, right?
Yeah.
But some of the stories that I've heard from people, and I've only heard these things, is that they lose any fear of death is gone, because you start to recognize what the Hermetics teach it, and that is that there is no such thing as death.
It's a transfer of energy.
And your mind starts connecting not just what happens on a spiritual plane or a mental spiritual plane, but what happens on the matter plane, and you start to see connections, and you start to focus better, and you can you become more efficient in life because of these new wired connections that you have.
Those remind y'all, coach is not saying to go do ayahuasca, even though he is a good salesman and makes it sound pretty interesting. He is not saying to go do ayahuasca.
I am not. And a lot of now I will say this, the VA has started allowing people with PTSD to utilize mushrooms, to get prescribed mushrooms, because it also has served to help people deal with trauma. So it's a great medicine. The earth will, as the earth heals itself, you are part of the earth, and it will heal you too.
I agree.
So I know people tripping out on me, but I'm just saying.
Speaking of that, this is another.
I say I wouldn't know unless I had been, doing mushrooms.
I have another question for you that I posed. Well, it's not necessarily a question, more so like a statement. And I would like for you to give me your feedback. Something I've been stating quite often recently. We are the only sentient creatures on this planet that pays to exist. Why is that?
Say that. Wait a minute. Hold on. I want you to say that again, because I wanted to post somebody's comment real quick.
Okay.
Let's say that again.
I said, we are the only sentient creatures that pay to exist on this planet. Why is that?
That pay to exist?
Yes.
Because unfortunately, we are the only sentient creatures on this planet that utilizes reason and logic to the way that we do, which is also co-opted and can be helped at times by emotions. If you were to push our emotions down so that we're more instinctive creatures and we would live more according to nature. But you would also have to take our ability to reason beyond our instincts, and we would just become more animalistic. So like, you wouldn't live in Georgia because it's too damn cold. You wouldn't build a house to the degree that we build houses and societies and things of that nature. So the reason why we pay to live is because we can mold the world however we desire to mold the world.
Okay.
Because other animals can't do that.
Now, looking at other animals in in the ecosystem, like bees, for an example. So whenever I posed that question to somebody, it was like, well, you got to work, you got to make money, money this, money that, money this, money that. And I'm like, okay, well, we look at these other sentient creatures on this planet. They don't have any system of, to our knowledge of what we can observe, there is no system of barter and trade where a fiscal monetary value is placed onto whatever they're exchanging.
Right.
If other sentient creatures on this planet, if all the rest of the sentient creatures on this planet, I ain't gonna say if others, if the rest of the sentient creatures on this planet can not only exist and cohabitate in a manner where they don't have a fiscal system or a monetary system, what is it about us humans that make that so irrational?
Greed and possessions.
Okay, so you think greed misses, like greed, there isn't a such thing as like a greedy bee or a greedy ant?
No.
Or, okay.
They instinctively live in a society where they do their work and other people are doing other works that provide for them what they do for their work. You know what I'm saying? Like there are the ants that go hunt. There are the ants who dig more tunnels. There are the ants who take care of the baby, the eggs and all that. Everybody got a job that they were born to do in the ant colony. There's no choice. You can't, I know I love my animated movies, and especially the one Ants in particular, but you can't choose to go be in the military as an ant and be a fighting ant when you are a worker ant. Your job is to dig tunnels, that's what you do. And you do it until you die. We don't have that about us. We're not born into one job and we do that job and everybody's job coalesces together. We have
innate gifts.
We do have innate gifts, but we also have desire. And that desire causes us to want things that we may not be able to produce ourselves. So we figure out ways to do it. So we created our whole system. We're social, but we don't understand like pure communism that Marx and Engels wrote. We can't really manifest that level of society because you have to take away a person who is working as in waste disposal, who hates that job. The ant don't hate their job. This is why I said the emotions have to be taken down or almost taken out. You can't hate your job. You do it because that's what you're programmed to do. But we're not programmed that way. We get to think outside the box and have desire.
Okay.
As soon as you have desire, then greed and possessions come into play.
Okay. So in your personal opinion, I have my own gripes and complaints with capitalism and almost any other form of economy that one can think of, because I have a ultimate moral issue with money and what money does to people. I guess that's where I'm at in life. I have a very negative view on money and how it changes people or amplifies. I ain't gonna say it changes people. It amplifies a person or who they actually are. To you, what would be a better system for humanity in that regard? Or do you feel like the current capitalistic system that we're currently under is the best suited for humanity?
Well, we're really not a true capitalist society. We're more of a capitalist socialist society because we do have all our social programs that are provided by the government. We pay the taxes and all these sorts of things. So we're not pure capitalism. But I do think that our capitalist socialist society right now is probably the best system because I've seen, dealing with Russia, I've seen their capitalist communist society and the fault within it and how that's not going to work. And I've also been living in Germany. I see how socialism, pure socialism, doesn't really work as well. Where it's a social capitalist system instead of a capital socialist system. that doesn't work as well either, because you spend so much money into taxes that the ability for a person to become something more is very difficult for them to do it. In America, it would be done differently because we're a much bigger country with more resources. So for right now, I would say it's probably the best system that we can have right now until certain inventions happen.
Okay, I can respect that.
So, and when I say certain inventions, it would have to be, and I know what people are gonna think. I know what you're gonna say. But until the replicator is invented from Star Trek,
yeah,
because
resources are always going to be finite. Yeah.
Right, you go from finite resources to infinite resources to being able to pretty much wipe out hunger, to wipe out poverty. So it would, over the generations, men, and when I say men, I mean men and women, the desire will switch from possessions for the most part to more
necessity,
whatever you fancy. You know what I'm saying? Like, you'll be able to be your true self. That
okay.
Like, I became an IT guy for the money, purely for the money. I hate the work.
I hate the work too, man.
And IT work, but I needed to make money at the time frame.
It's like babysitting adults.
Oh my God! As a system administrator, it is the absolute worst job to have. That's why I quit Citibank and I went and worked for a school, because I'd rather teach than to, oh, my printer don't work and I got to come and crawl on your desk because you're not kick the goddamn cable out.
Mm-hmm.
All that damn IT shit I done learned. Yep. I'm over here just replugging in your cables. No,
that's
your password.
That's currently my life. That's currently my life, Coach. And
I was so happy when I became a project manager.
All right, so this is my last question, and I'll get off of here. Since most of us that are currently viewing this is deconstructing or have already deconstructed from Christianity, what advice would you give someone? Damn, my problem calling
and what's the first thing you say as an IT person? Turn it off. Count 10 seconds and pull the power plug out and turn it back on.
Unplug it, wait 15 seconds, and then plug it back in.
Okay, I'm sorry. I used to hate when they did shit like that. But go ahead.
But okay, yeah. So
I made you forget. Sorry.
No, it's all good. Since most of us that are here watching are deconstructing or have already deconstructed from Christianity, what advice, since religion provides most humanity, it answers their existential questions that most humanity cannot objectively answer. Religion comes in and it fills that void for them. What advice would you give someone that is deconstructing from this belief and then is instantly met with a mean existential crisis?
Look inward. First, look inward within yourself and truly discover yourself, right? And learn how to be your authentic self. There is a certain freedom that comes when you are just being you, without the walls of what other people have forced on you your entire life. Because when you can start being yourself, then you have the ability to truly critically think through stuff. And when you critically think through things, it's basically the process of getting the facts, having an understanding of those facts, putting it into practice to see what the results are going to be, and then taking that wisdom and deciding whether or not I got to gather more facts or change my understanding, or I'm just right. Now, the biggest existential questions is two. What's the purpose of life? What happens after life?
Mm-hmm.
When you get to know yourself and you can be your authentic self, you realize that the purpose of life is you to live it as happily and as best you can without interfering with anybody else. That you determine your own purpose of life. What happens after life, you don't damn know. But with the process of critically thinking, you have two options. Either nothing, because when you start to understand that everything is energy and everything is the frequency, and your consciousness is not just your brain or just your heart, but it's a compilation of heart, brain, gut, all the whole deal.
Vibration of heart patterns, etc.
Either that energy will transmute into a widespread, just as any decomposing body or any form of energy does, or since we have the ability to dream, since we have the ability to imagine, since manifestations of new inventions come from thought first before it materializes, that your brain, your consciousness is so strong and cohesive that it'll manifest whatever
you believed in.
No, not what you believed in, whatever you most likely know now. Unless you still believe in Christianity, it's going to create the Christianity stuff, and you don't want it to do that because you're not walked away from it. Because then it's going to manifest you into a hell, into this lake of fire that you're so afraid that you were afraid of, which would demonstrate that you still have some fear concerning and some fear and attachments to it. But you get to a point like where I'm at is that I know that if my consciousness does stay together, it's going to manifest whatever the hell I want it to manifest, which is an amazing space. Pretty much godlike. Because just like I can sit here right now, meditate, and create an entire universe in my mind. Why wouldn't I do it then? And me as the creator of that universe. Or I go and seek out, and since I'm still within this universe, because there's no possibility of being outside of this universe, then exploring this universe on a different mental dimensional plane. Okay. So there is no hell, because I've convinced myself based on facts that there is no hell other than the ones I create or other people try to create for me. So it takes time. You have to detach all the emotions of fear, guilt, and shame from the previous indoctrination, and then come to the realization of you are the manifester of your actual true life. Just as you manifested yourself into IT. Ain't nobody else did it. You took them stupid ass tests and went and got to do whatever you got.
Why the hell I did that? So I can babysit a bunch of people that are older than me. If I have to tell you to make sure your caps lock is off one more time.
Right. But that's what you manifested.
I did, apparently.
And I don't know who you work for right now, but you work for them because you and whomever you sat across the desk from chose to come into an agreement of merging y'all universes together. At any given time frame, you or them can split that universe, and you go about your merry little way, and you choose another universe for you to exist in, meaning another job, or you create your own company or whatever, and now you're living your own life. You are the one who makes the choice. And that's the biggest thing. Is I like to reference movies. I know people dog out the last Matrix movie, not the last one, but the one before that one, the third one.
Resurrection?
When Smith asked him, why are you getting up? Why are you still fighting or doing this? And he says, because I choose to. If you look at 1, 2, and 3, there's a lot of it leads up to Neo coming to realizing that his life is not pre-programmed, it's a choice, and whether or not he chooses or not. And that's how I see after this existence, because I have choice in this one, I will have choice in whatever happens after this is over.
Unless the Buddhists are right or the Hindu are right, and you just come right back to this place and then it's over with. Well,
the Buddhist samsara, that's what you do if you don't choose to go to the next level of consciousness. If in the samsara, if you choose to be in fear of the demonic demon beings that are show themselves up, if you don't realize that they manifested because they are in your mind, that you manifested them, and you go into fear, you run back to earth. That's what samsara teaches. But if you understand that it is you who created those entities, then you can, y'all ain't nothing, and I'm gonna go to this higher existence. I'm gonna go to nirvana. Right. That's the same teaching. And but you got to get over fear, guilt, shame, understanding that love is something that is to be wonderfully delved into, but you don't control it, and that everything is connected, and you just have to lose all your attachments to all this shit. You know, I love my children, but I wouldn't come back to earth to be with my kids. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Love them, attached to them, but only to a degree of I have a purpose as their father, and that's it.
Yeah.
My purpose is not to come back. You know, they have their own life to make their own choices for. And though they are attached to me, I did teach them, don't be so attached to me that you make your life choices based on me.
Yeah.
Your life choices are based on you. And this is a phone, but at the end of the day, it's just a piece of plastic and metal and shit. You know, my car is a car. And I started with little things like that, with getting rid of the attachments. Is this house is this house, and let's say I lose all my money, can't afford to live here anymore. Most people go into a depression or some shit like that. Yeah, it's a house. I've had a whole bunch of houses in my life. I can get some more. I can have another car if I do. If I don't, it's always it is what it is. And I just keep moving. You know, a lot of people, they freak out over stuff. That's because they have that attachment to it. So you let go of your attachments. I say it easily, but it ain't easy to do.
I mean, yeah, true. It took a while for me to like really, because especially growing up, we both having similar backgrounds as far as like growing up in the church in Georgia, being prophesied to that we're supposed to be a pastor, etc., a part of the ministry or whatever the case may be, and then to feel a strong calling towards it, and then to walk away from it, but yet still be so passionate about it. I would say my passion is more so I love mythology and I love history.
Yeah, I know you love mythology, but go ahead. You love history.
So with that being said, theology falls right behind it, because to me, it's all mythology. But yeah, I think it definitely takes a while for you to be able to walk away from it. For me, it was a slippery slope, because like once I realized the impermanence of everything, like nothing's here forever.
Nope.
It kind of like zapped motivation, from a sense of like, if nothing here is permanent, why try hard?
Yeah, if nothing here is permanent, why try hard? The reason you try hard is because you want to live the best life you can, the most wonderful, charmed life you possibly can live, that still gives you peace and allows you to give to your community at whatever level that giving is.
Yeah.
Your community just might be your kids or your wife or your family. You know, it doesn't mean you have to go save a village and no shit like that. But the purpose of trying hard is trying to live how you want to live, enjoy life how you desire to enjoy. Because although none of this, I'm not attached to money, or I'm not attached to money. I do realize that money allows for me to live a certain way. But what I won't do is work so hard that I don't get to live. That's what I was doing as an IT guy, doing my 60, 80 hours a week.
Yep.
Working hard for a lifestyle that I didn't get to enjoy. Oh, kids and the wife at the time, they enjoyed the hell out of it. I didn't get to enjoy it. You know? They calling me up. Oh yeah, we having lunch at Maggiano's. Can you join us? Nah, I gotta work.
Nah, we gotta do a server migration.
Right, these motherfuckers just living their best life over here. You know?
Yeah.
Hell. So it took me some time up until like 2 years ago to realize I don't have to work 12 hours a day, because that's what I was doing even as a business owner. Working 12 hours a day. That's why I opened a cigar lounge. I wanted, even though I knew I had to work 12 hours a day, let me do it in a place that I know I enjoy. But even that became a prison, because we was just sit there. I'm there every day in the same damn conversations every day. I don't care who the GOAT is. Getting on my nerves. It got to a point where I can sit in a room and know what everybody's gonna say because they done said it so many times over. So I had to let it go, walk away from it, and not care what people say. That's the hard part. But unfortunately, we work until we about damn ready to die.
Essentially, and the you know what? That's a conversation for another time. I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here, Coach. But I'll jump on the stream another time, man. Thank you for your time and your hospitality.
Ain't gonna be too far behind you, but I appreciate you.
All right, for sure.
All right. I ain't gonna say nothing about
Yep. We ain't gotta say nothing, Coach.
We'll be waiting for this world building you about to do, though.
We ain't gonna say nothing about that smoke detector either. All right, y'all have a nice night. Huh?
Where in Georgia you at?
I'm in Lawrenceville.
Oh, you're in Lawrenceville. Okay, so when I come to Georgia in May, I'm gonna kick your ass. Okay.
I'm gonna hit that knee. Knee. I'm aiming for that knee. I don't know which one, but one of them. All right.
Both of them. I'm gonna kick his ass though, for real. I'm coming to Georgia in May. I'm gonna whoop his ass. Oh my gosh. Mixed Lit, you in Snellville? Oh shit, we're gonna have to meet up at the cigar lounge. Cause when I come in May, I'm going to a cigar lounge. We'll be there for a day or two, couple days before we go to Puerto Rico. But I appreciate Crimson for coming on. I appreciate Renee for coming on. I always appreciate that. It makes the live more entertaining, and it makes it not as boring for me, because I can't read everybody's comment fast enough because y'all be, but it helps when other people come on. So I enjoyed that. I'm sure you guys enjoyed that too, not just hearing me run my mouth the whole time. And Mixed Lit. So what normally happens, this is why you gotta make sure you're subscribed to the channel and everything, you follow the channel, because anytime we travel, weeks beforehand, or at least if I know weeks before, however early I know where I'm going to be traveling to, I let people know where we're going to be so we can schedule opportunities to link up. So like I'm telling people right now, May 15th through May 22nd, we're going to be in Puerto Rico. So we're going to fly out of Atlanta. So we'll probably go to Atlanta like May 13th or something like that, or maybe even earlier, depending upon if we decide to. Well, no, I want to see my girls. So, and all the girls. Well, no, one of the girls now moved out of Atlanta. But anyway, yeah. So I'll make sure you guys know when we travel. Just got to be on the channel. But that's gonna do it for tonight. I got to go down here so my wife can glorify the fact that she was able to get the battery out. And I didn't. When you come to Europe, as soon as I finish paying this child support off and get my passport, because we'll probably go live right after that. We'll probably go live in Italy for about 3 years, because my wife wants to cook with the nonas. She want to learn how to cook with the nonas, so we'll probably go to Italy for about 3 years. As soon as I pay that child support off. I'm very transparent. I don't care what people think about the fact that I'm behind on child support. Don't matter to me. It is what it is. Had some years that business wasn't going well. Got behind. So get over it. Columbus where? And I need people to understand, even though James be talking trash to me all the time, I'll meet up with James. I have no problems meeting up with James. I've met up with many people who don't like me or don't like what I talk about. I ain't gonna say like me because everybody loves me as a person. Columbus, where? Columbus, Georgia, Columbus, Ohio. But I can tell you this: Columbus, Georgia, you gotta come to Atlanta. Ohio, I have no desire to go to Ohio. Oh, wherever we move to, we'll still be doing lives. I'll just have to adjust my schedule to fit. Let me tell you something. If I were to ever do polygamy, it ain't gonna be. It's not a free ride. We all work together. God dang it, you work together in this thing. The people that I've coached and counseled in polygamous relationship, some of them come in there with the stupid idea that they're gonna sit and not do nothing. You gotta work together. I think polygamy is a great thing. I do want to go back to Ireland myself. Oh, James, I never take it personally. I never think that the person who disagrees with me is actually hating me as a person. I never take it that way. So we good. Yeah. I'm sure that we'll have a good time after we have our discussions, and then we just gonna, crack some jokes and have a good time. Yeah, I have no problem with polygamy. I think it's a great institution. I think it's a wonderful institution. Ooh, maybe that's what we'll talk about on Monday, because Wednesday is what's wrong with the Bible, and we're still continuing with that. Maybe we'll have a discussion about how Christians should be practicing polygamy and the benefits thereof on Monday. I'm gonna have to hold that, let me write that one down. Ooh, and if we do, I wonder if I can get him to come on with me. Right after Valentine's Day. I wonder if I can get. See, I don't want to give up all the info. So, of course, at times there will be levels of jealousy that happens in polygamy. This is where the jealousy has to be managed primarily by, okay, so it depends on how you guys set it up, because I do think that if a woman wants to have multiple husbands, she could as well. So a woman should be able to have multiple husbands. I don't see a problem with that either. If the 3, 4, 5, 6 people are in agreement, I don't give a damn. But when it comes to the jealousy, and this to tune y'all up for Monday, because we're going to have this conversation on Monday, the group has to be able to manage it, and whoever is the leader of the group, it damn sure falls upon their shoulders to manage the jealousy, to be able to recognize it, and to be able to sit down together and talk about it, discuss it, and figure it out. So, like an example that I often like to give when it comes to jealousy is that there was this one polygamous throuple that came together. The one likes to go on walks in nature, and the other one doesn't like walking in nature. The one who doesn't like to do nature, though, she likes flowers, but the one who goes in nature didn't like flowers. But after seeing the excitement for a while of getting the flowers and going for the walks, they started having a little bit of desire, which you can call jealousy, of wanting to do those things. So the man now, the one he was giving flowers to, he also now has to take her on nature walks. The one that he was taking nature walks on, he now has to give her flowers. So he managed their jealousy by giving both of them exactly what they desired. Now, there are different types of jealousy things that happen, and you just have to figure out how to manage it. And really, it's discovering what this person needs to feel loved and what that person needs to feel loved. And as changes happen, be adaptable to those changes. So it's not an easy walk in the park, but you just have to be mature enough to be able to make those types of decisions. And yes, Texas Goddess. I do think that is fine for either side. Teresa, don't be giving up who I'm going to call to see if I can get them to make themselves available that night. Because we have talked recently about doing some shows together. So, shh. But that is exactly who I'm calling. It could be a conversation for 369, but because I want to put a whole Bible thing in there, I don't know if I want them. Trauma, jealousy is going to happen. You don't even have to be in a polygamous relationship. Let me tell you a little story real quick. I do this a lot on Lorenzo 369. Let me tell you a little story. So when I was stationed in Germany, there was a strawberry patch behind the barracks, the base that I lived on, and there was a couple of walking trails. When I first got there, nobody went into the strawberry patch. Nobody used to take the walking trails. But me and the woman I was married to at the time frame, when we got there, we would take walks into the strawberry patch and we would take walks along the trail. Other wives became jealous of that. And the reason why I know is because some of the other dudes, while we were standing around the barbecue pit, were like, damn, man, you not came here, y'all going in strawberry patches and y'all taking these walks. Now my wife want to take a walk. Now she want to go in the strawberry patch. Jealousy happens whether it's in that situation or not. It doesn't matter. Your wife sees what the neighbor is doing, or your husband sees what the neighbor is doing. You know that guy who his wife is giving him all the freaky deaky sex that he wants, and he hanging that one dude in a group, and his wife be doing it all the stuff, the Gluck Gluck 3000, everything. You know, he sitting there just chilling, and she just pow right there. Dudes be getting jealous of that dude. They get jealous of that man. People will get jealous. You just have to figure out ways and be mature enough to manage all of it. That's all. But I'm not going to talk about that no more. That's for later. That's for later. Right. Jehovah's Witness that's a good conversation as well. So I'm going to get off here so I can go downstairs and me and my wife can enjoy the rest of our evening, even though we don't go to sleep till about 2 in the morning. But I appreciate you guys. Y'all have a great night. I will see you tomorrow at 8 p.m. for What's Wrong with the Bible. We're in Joshua 11 and 12. For those who like to take a peek at what we're going to go over tomorrow, you are more than welcome to. And so, go continue to subscribe to the channel, love the channel, like the channel, share the videos, like the videos as well. Thank you for everybody who's a member of YouTube and a subscription holder on Facebook. And thank you to everybody who supports the channel directly that way. But I will see you guys tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations. That's 8, Angelina, it's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. I know it's 7 Central our time, but it's 8. But thank you for your help. Later. I'm out.